Membership Matters on Wednesday, the 22nd of September. We're really delighted to have Dr. Peter Lovatt here with us today, and we've got Jolie as our host. And Peter will be looking at how dance and movement can re-energise people in a variety of settings. And for those of you who attended graduation in 2019, you might possibly remember Dr. Peter Lovatt as our special guest speaker, and he gave us a very entertaining whilst educational speech for all of our graduates and guests. Peter trained in dance and musical theatre at the Guildford School of Acting before working as a professional dancer in musical theatre. He went on to study, he went to university to study psychology, and after getting his PhD, took up an academic post at Cambridge University. It was while he was at Cambridge that he combined his love of dance with the science of psychology to set up the Dance Psychology Lab to study dance and dancers from a scientific perspective. And Peter's the author of 2 books on dance, The Dance Cure 2020, which I've got a copy of and would highly recommend, and Dance Psychology, which is in 2018. And he teaches dance psychology and mental skills for the dancers at the Royal Ballet School. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the expert and let you all indulge for the next 40-50 minutes or so in the hands of Dr. Peter Lovatt. So thank you, Peter, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak today, to be part of your Membership Matters. I mean, it's so exciting for me to be here and to do this. As you said, I trained in dance and musical theatre at the Guildford School of Acting and took ISTD exams in a range of different dance subjects. So it's really a special thing for me to be invited to come speak here today. So what am I going to speak about today? Well, I'm going to speak about 3 things. I want to speak about mental skills for dancers, and I want to talk about the importance of mental skills for dancers. Very often we think about the body and how important it is that we train the body and we train our technique and our performance, but actually our mind is really important too. So those mental skills are really important. The second thing I want to talk about is movement in practice. And that's the use of movement outside of a sort of dance world, I suppose, or connecting the dance world with the non-dance world to try to make the whole world a dance world. And the third thing I want to talk about is a project I'm working on with Dame Darcy Bussell, which is called Move Assure. And Move Assure is a dance program, also a dance for wellness program that we've been working on, and it's releasing very, very soon. So I want to talk about those 3 things. So I did have 2 titles for today's talk, and I couldn't quite work out exactly which one to use. It was either going to be called When You Move, You Improve, or it was going to be called Mental Health and Wellbeing for Dancers. And in many ways, those 2 things go hand in hand. I suppose the first side, the when you move, you improve, shows that when you move your body and when you engage with your body and dance, then it can lead to some fantastic improvements, which it certainly does in things like business, education, the workplace, and in health settings. But there are many occasions also where we need to consider the mental health of dancers. And so that's why I started thinking about mental health and well-being for dancers. It's all kind of linked together. So let's start by thinking about mental skills for dancers. As you've heard already, I want to take that one off to there so you don't get in the way. As you've heard, I teach mental skills for dancers at the Royal Ballet School. And I work there with the students in the upper school, thinking about a range of issues to do with mental skills. Let me tell you what those are, and then we can go through, and I'm going to show you them there. So these mental skills are things like motivation and goals, thinking about why people dance, why they don't dance, what their goals are in life, and thinking about how realistic those goals are to achieve. We look a lot on self-esteem. So trying to understand how much we value ourselves as a person. Now, of course, in the dance world, that concept of valuing ourselves is really critical because we are, in many ways, we're dancing with our bodies and our bodies are us, and that defines very often our self-worth. We look at performance anxiety. Now, performance anxiety isn't just about performance on stage. It can be performance in a classroom setting, learning some technique, or it might be performance as it relates to taking an exam, preparing for that exam, or auditioning. And so these mental skills are really important to think about. We look at perfectionism. We know, of course, that perfectionism is a real issue in the dance world, trying to be thinking about the difference between excellence and perfection. It's funny, we have this idea these days that everyone's very well educated on perfectionism, and we say, oh, well, there's no such thing as perfectionism in the dance world anymore. We might look for excellence, but we've kind of got over ourselves in terms of perfection. But that's, I don't think, the real case. I know so many dance teachers at very many different dance schools who still have a perfectionistic idea about what they expect their students to achieve. Some of those aspects of perfectionism are to do with the perfect body shape or size. Some are to do with having perfect technique. Some dance teachers have told me that the only time they don't expect perfection is when artistry is involved. So with artistry, it's not perfect, but everything else, sometimes they demand a perfectionistic ideal. And of course, this can be really damaging to young people's heads and thinking about achieving something that's perfect. So we're still grappling with this idea about what we as a dance world expect our young trainees and older dancers to achieve. We look at things to do with thinking and creativity and how the mind influences our kind of creative self, how we choreograph, how we create, how we express, how we do a whole range of things. We look at issues to do with watching dance. We look at emotions, both our emotions in terms of our performance, but also our emotions in terms of being emotionally intelligent and thinking about how our emotions affect our relationships with our peers, with our teachers, with choreographers, with people in the outside world, a whole range of areas. And we think about the relationship between the body and the brain. It's no use just thinking about the body as being completely separate from the brain and the mind. We have to train the mind at the same time that we're training the body so that we understand that link between those two. So we look at a bit of neuroscience as well when we're teaching that too. So now mental skills, I think, are really a really important part of a dancer's toolkit. I mean, I say that as someone who had, I had a terrible set of mental skills. We know that a lot of dancers go through a wide range of emotional difficulties when they're in dance. And for me, dance has always been a really paradoxical activity. Now, it's paradoxical for me because, and I think for lots of dancers, because it gives the real extreme highs. So in dance has been the place where I've lived most of my life, where I felt happy. I've been able to identify, I've been able to be strong, I've been able to be creative, I've had good bonding relationships with other people when I dance. But also, dance has also given me some of the greatest lows in my life. When I trained at GSA, I experienced mental health issues while I was there. And some of those, I'm not attributing them to GSA, I'm not attributing to any members of staff there. I'm just thinking about the types of pressures that go on psychologically when you're training can have a negative impact on your mental health. I mean, that's certainly the case for me. I didn't feel good enough. I felt I had the wrong body shape and size. I always thought my legs were 2 inches too short. It was just, and that when I was training was a really big issue. My legs were just 2 inches too short. And if they were longer, the whole world would be different. All my problems would be over. And I felt that my technique wasn't perfect. If I tried to do something and I couldn't do it, then sometimes I wouldn't try to do it. I had issues to do with, oh my word, authority, with humiliation, with bullying. When I was at school as a dancer, as a teenager, then of course you get, well, when I was at school in the 70s, you got picked on being a boy dancer, and that wasn't very nice, and that stays with you. But also then training as well. The whole training environment can sometimes feel humiliating. When you're standing in a I think I've got a picture of it somewhere of me in a silver catsuit. So it's in a silver lycra catsuit, nothing else. And you stand there and you are so exposed. I mean, obviously we all know what that feeling is, but it can sometimes feel really humiliating because your body, does things it shouldn't do, and blimey. Anyway, there's all kinds of things to do with the side aspects of the dance world, and then you graduate and then go to get a job, and then there are thousands of people for this job. There's no job security, and you get a job, and then the contract ends. Oh my word! So dancers have a really hard time managing the whole environment of the dance world, and it's no wonder that then can lead to some mental health issues. When we think about some of these goals that people have, so if we go back to this goals slide here, and motivation and goals, we know from the scientific literature that when people can be self-motivated, and when they can set their own goals and work towards particular goals, then there's generally a healthier outcome. But of course, one of the things we know about the dance world is that the dance world very often sets those goals. And sometimes those goals are moving. So it's not like you've got one target. It's not like getting an A at A level or a B at A level, where there's a target and you can aim for it. You know what other people have done and you can hit it. In the dance world, it's entirely different. One year they might want a certain body shape and size, and another year there's a different body shape and size. And if your body shape and size doesn't fit it, then of course, that's it, you're out. Or on the other hand, sometimes you get lucky and suddenly your body shape and size is the right size because a new choreographer comes in and then, hey, presto, you've got it, you've got the gig. It's really hard. So keeping agency and keeping control on those mental skills is difficult. So we know that when we train in dance, it can either be a fantastic thing or it can be a negative thing. I've just spent the last few minutes focusing on the negative side of dance, but please don't think that that's my overall impression of dance. For me, dance has given me a life and a feeling and relationships that nothing else has ever given me in a really positive way. When I dance, I feel more connected to other people. When I dance, my mind thinks differently, my head feels different. It's certainly the case that when I dance, my mood is lifted and I can feel fantastic in different ways when I move my body in different ways. And of course, it also feeds my body too. My body always needs to dance. Yesterday, I've been sat at my desk for about 7 hours working, just writing. And then I came here. I'm very lucky to have my studio here. And then I could come into the studio and just dance and stretch and move and be expressive. And it was a wonderful release for both body and mind. So for me, dance has been a wonderful experience, and I love being in this world. So we started off by looking at this notion of mental skills for dancers. The reason I think the Royal Ballet School started teaching mental skills for dancers was because they realised that so many of the dancers were going through experiences. Now, I'm not a clinical psychologist. They do have at the Royal Ballet School a clinical psychologist on staff. But what I've tried to do is to work with the theories of these things and giving students tools of how to use them, how to think about performance anxiety, how to recognise some of the symptoms of it, how to overcome some of those symptoms, so that we can give them the tools before they experience the negative elements of it. Very often, when you work with a clinical psychologist, you wait until the student has got to a critical point, and then they go and see the clinical psychologist. But the problem with that, very often, is that there's a stigma associated amongst the students about going to get support after you need it. But whereas when we teach students beforehand about these mental skills and techniques and tricks and give them insights and understanding, then they're much more absorbent of those ideas, which is great. So there we are. So mental skills for dancers is the first area. Now, I'm only thrown slightly because we had a difficulty with getting some music working before, and it won't work. And at this point, I was going to get us all moving and grooving and dancing, but sadly, we don't have the music, so we can't really do that. Yes, well, why do we do it? Why don't we do it? Even without music, we can have music in our head. We can be like Gerard the giraffe. Come on. So, could you please put your right hand up in the air and swap to the left, and swap to the right, and swap to the left. Lovely. Okay, and I want to walk back so you can see my hand. And then you click 3 times and clap. That's it. Okay, let's do this together. Here we go. We go. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and lovely. Let's do that again. 5, 6, 7, and 8. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, and 8. Oh, lovely. Now we're here. And we go 1, boom, boom. We go up, down, down. So this 8 here, we start here, and we go over, clap, up, down, down. And this is all I'm going to do for now. Let's do that again. And we'll do it all that those 2 8s. We'll do it very slowly. 5, 6, 7, and 8. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, and 8. We go over. 4. Do ba dum ba bum. Up, down, down. Have you got that groove? Are you feeling that groove now? And have you got those steps? Obviously, now what we'll do, let's go slightly faster. 5, 6, 7, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We go 1, 3, 4, up, down, down. We do it another couple of times. 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We go 1, 3, 4, up, and down, 2. We'll do one more time. I'm singing the song. It's not the real song. 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and over, up, down. March. Right. I can't see you, so I hope you're fine doing that. We'll do some more of that later on. Right. Let's go on to part 2 of this talk. So the second thing I want to talk about is movement in practice. Now, for me, I worked for 25 years in the university sector. So I worked at Cambridge University. I've been at all sorts of other universities around the country, most lately at the University of Hertfordshire. And all of those universities, I was studying the science and the psychology of dance and movement. I was really interested in how the brain functions. I'm really interested in how the brain functions in terms of memory, language, problem solving, and a whole range of cognitive activities. And I'm really interested in how all of those things are related to our movement and the way that we move our body. So I set up the Dance Psychology Lab to study dance and dancers from a scientific perspective. During that time, I worked with some wonderful people at different universities, trying to understand what happens to people when they dance. In 2008 and 9, we then set up a research project to look at the relationship between dancing and Parkinson's disease. Now, we know that Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disorder, which leads to a range of cognitive and physical problems. And what we found, and other people have found, is that when people dance and move their body, it leads to significant improvements in some of their symptoms. Now, when we started looking at this, I was working with my colleague who had an office next door to me called Dr. Lucy NX. And Lucy was a neuroscientist and had spent many years working in Parkinson's disease. And when we first saw the research, which showed that people with Parkinson's, some of their symptoms were reduced when they danced, frankly, we didn't believe it. So we set up a lab to try to see whether it really was the case that when people moved their body, when they had a neurodegenerative disorder like Parkinson's, whether it really would lead to changes in their symptoms. And what we found was that it did. And not only did it lead to changes in their physical symptoms, so their walking and their balance and their coordination, it also led to improvements in their thinking and problem solving. Now, this was amazing when we first found this, particularly to do with thinking and problem solving, because then we wanted to see whether those same issues were relevant to people without Parkinson's disease. And we found that they were. That even people without Parkinson's disease, when you get them moving in different ways, it changes the way that they think and it changes the way they solve problems. We looked also at the relationship between dance and self-esteem. We looked at dance and social bonding. We looked at dance and emotions and feelings. And we looked at dance and the physical characteristics of the hormones and genes. And what we found across all of these studies was that when people move, they improve, they change. When you get people dancing, they change, and they change in these 4 amazing ways. So let me show you this. So these are the 4 areas they change in. When you get people moving, it enhances human experiences in people's social human experience. It changes them also in their thinking experience. It changes them in their emotional experience. And of course, it changes them physically in terms of their heart rate, their neurochemicals. It changes a wide range of things across their body, not just things you can see, but also the things inside the body that you can't see. So when I left the university sector, I left the universities in 2019. I then set up movement in practice. And movement in practice, the idea of movement in practice was to feed something that had been kind of itching with me for a number of years. And that was, how do we get more people outside of the dance world using dance and using movement as part of their everyday lives? So how do we introduce more dancing into schools? And some schools have it maybe as an after-school club, but how do we integrate dance into the fabric of learning in a school? How do we get all teachers using movement as part of the learning experience, making it as normal as writing or reading? We also wanted, I've been doing some work looking with businesses, trying to understand how can we introduce dance and movement into the business sector? So offices and corporate top corridors. How do we enculturate dance and movement into those areas? And I've been doing some work with some businesses, working with call center staff and working with executives in a charity organization, using movement with them to try to help them change the way that they think, trying to break away from set patterns of thinking and be more creative, trying to use movement as part of their everyday working environments to make people generally feel better, to increase well-being in the workplace. The third area, of course, was the healthcare settings. We know that people with Parkinson's, when they engage in dance, then some of their symptoms become significantly improved. And it's amazing that there are so many extraordinary organizations like English National Ballet who are using dance, and they've got fantastic Dance for Parkinson's networks set up. When we looked at the prevalence of where people could find a Dance for Parkinson's group, there were very patchy areas. Some areas in the country, there was a really good offering, and other areas of the country, there was nothing at all for people with Parkinson's. So we're interested in how we can use dance, not just with people with Parkinson's, but with a wide range of medical conditions as part of either the treatment or the rehab or the prehab, the preparation for surgery or keeping a healthy lifestyle. And of course, we use it also in the social care settings. So thinking about family groups, thinking about looked after children, thinking about prisoners, and using dance and movement for all of those different groups. So when I was at the university, we were doing research into all of these areas and trying to apply this work in those areas. And so when I left the university sector, we then set up movement in practice as a way to implement some of those ideas. What we were doing with those ideas was trying to help people, train people in movement in practice methods and training people in how to take their dance skills and knowledge and apply that into those different areas, education, business, social care or health. And we run training programs on those people. And we also then link other people who've got real experience in business or in health to direct them towards places where they can learn to dance and then to use dance in those environments, and to link people together. So we get the two halves coming together and working together. In all of our movement in practice, all our trainees who go through the system all then set up an implementation plan. So this is a way of using movement in the real world to enhance people's lives in any of those areas. And our trainees are currently working in all of those 4 areas in business, education, in health and social care. So just to give you an idea of the types of things we do, we've got, I'll tell you about another one in a moment, but well, I know I'm fumbling now, but I don't. What we're looking at is things like, how can we change social policy and get more dance into social policy? So my son, I've got 2 sons. We've got a 23-year-old son, we've got an 8-year-old son. And our 8-year-old son, our older son is a professional musician, and he's very happy. And our older son likes a groove. He's a groover. He's a dancer. He loves the groove. And so he goes to this school, and at his school, they employ a whole wide range of peripatetic music teachers. And we live in Norfolk, and all of these music teachers come from Norfolk County Council. And Norfolk County Council run the Norfolk Music Hub. And this music hub is fantastic because it brings together loads and loads and loads of different music teachers. And then when the schools, who all kind of work with the council, when the schools need a peri teacher in music, they can get in basically any type of musician to come in and work with the kids. And they can work with the kids either on a one-to-one basis, and just, there's a fixed fee for that, or they can work in small groups, or they can work in larger groups. Now, the amazing thing about this, I think, is that at his school, he can be excused from maths or from English or from science to go and play his musical instrument for half an hour with one of the peris. But there's no dance. There's simply no dance at all. We did have at his school a dance teacher, and she was fantastic. And she'd been running lessons in the school. And then during lockdown, of course, she said she had to leave because she simply couldn't make a living from it. It's one of those things where the dance teacher simply couldn't make a living. Now, the school kept on their sports teachers, but they didn't make their dance teachers full-time. They didn't keep them. They weren't covered by the furlough scheme. So they vanished and disappeared. Now the school has come back. Music is a hot thing on the agenda again, but there's still no dance. So I thought, well, I'll go to Norfolk County Council and try to see whether there is anything called the Norfolk Dance Hub. Because the headmaster at my son's school, I said to him, look, where's the dance? We need more. And I said, oh yes, I'm trying that, but I simply can't find a dance teacher. And I said, well, can't you look on the website, the ISTD website? Can't you look on all these other websites for a dance teacher? And he said, well, I just really can't find anybody. And of course, what he needs to be able to go to the Norfolk County Council and go onto their website and click on the Norfolk Dance Network. And that dance network needs to have a Norfolk Dance Hub. And then that dance hub needs to be connected with all of the schools. And so then we can have dance teachers who are teaching all kinds of different things, a wide range of different dance styles for half an hour at a time or for 2 hours at a time to different groups. And I think then we need to start inculturating dance into the school in exactly the same way that music is. So the idea would be that if my son suddenly is going to have a ballet class at 2 o'clock, he's excused from English to go and do ballet. Or he might do a different form of dance. He might do tap, or he might do Indian classical dance. He might do any form of dance because those teachers might be connected together in a hub. So one of the implementations we're trying to do with movement and practice is we're now petitioning Norfolk County Council to try to set up something like a Norfolk Dance Hub. And I know there are currently dance organisations in Norfolk, but we need to bring those together so that all school teachers know that if they need a dance teacher, they can go to a dance hub and get one in a really specific way. And we also, I think, need not just to have dance teachers at the end of the day for the after-school activities, when traditionally dance teachers are very busy, but also then to have opportunities throughout the day from 9 o'clock in the morning through till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where dance teachers, if they want to, can then start teaching children. So that's one of our missions, is to try to get a range of dance available within the community. And it's not just in the school. We want to try to get more dance in our local communities, people dancing together, as Scotland have in Cadiz, coming together to dance and making that a normal part of normal social engagement. So we get people to dancing is entirely normal, and it isn't considered a low-class activity, which is only for a certain subsection of our society. Anyway, so there we are. I get a bit of a ranting when I kind of thinking about that. But yeah, we need to get more dance, and that's one of the things we're doing with movement in practice. So before I tell you the next thing, let's do the next few moves. Here we go. So what have we done? We've gone, here we go. We've gone 1, 2, 3, 4. We go 5, 6, 7, and clap. We've gone over and boom. We go up and down and up. Now this time we go one arm up. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going pointing to the floor now. And we're all. So let's do that one. Here we go. We go 1, 2, 3, and 4. We roll 5, 6, and then 7, and 8. And now with your left hand push your body, boom. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 6, 7, 8. That's got the timing thing there. So we've got our left hand across our body, and we go on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 6, 7, 8. Have you got it? Let's do those 2 8s again. We go 5, 6, 7, 8. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 6, 7, 8. Marvellous. Now, let's do the whole thing. Let's try and do the whole thing. So we'll start with our left hand going up in the air. We go 5, so that's our right hand. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, up. Second half, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 6, 7, 8. Oh, now the piece of music I would normally use for this would be something like Sir Duke. But I can't sing the whole thing, so I just don't know the whole thing. So try and get that rhythm in your head. Are you ready? 5, 6, 7, here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We and then we groove. We start again. Just burn that body groove. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and clap and over. Up, one arm up, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's it. Great. It's always good to have a boogie. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, so we've got movement in practice, which is this idea that we can use movement and take movement outside of the dance world and then feed dance into everywhere else. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could change the culture in some ways around acceptance of dance as being as important as music, as literature, and that we were not humiliated when we do it, so that we can do it everywhere and anywhere without people saying, oh, you're a dancer. And that means that, ooh, you know. Again, enough, I'll go on too long. So now the third thing, let's say the third thing I wanted to talk about was move ashore. Boom, 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 boom. So this is Move Ashore. And this is a project I'm working on with Dave Darcy Bussell. And Darcy and I met making a TV show a couple of years ago. And the TV show was called Darcy Bussell Dancing to Happiness. And it was a BBC 2 show. And then my involvement with that show was thinking about some of the mood changes that we get with people with Parkinson's. And we've seen with people with Parkinson's that when they engage in dance, then their mood lifts up. So we were thinking about happiness within a mood context, and people with Parkinson's and people without Parkinson's. Anyway, Darcy and I got on really well. We grooved all day long. We had 2 or 3 days of filming, and it was very, very nice. And then we've kept in contact ever since. And one of her ambitions, and one of my ambitions, was to get dance more out there and have more people dancing, and then trying to use dance in a way to help people with well-being issues. And so what we've developed with some other people too is a Dance for Wellbeing program. And this is a 60 session, so 60 session, 20 weeks, 3 times a week, where we have short sessions of between 15 and 25 minutes where people can dance. They either learn a dance or they, once they've learned to dance, they can then just dance it. So the idea is there's a repertoire of dances. And the dances were originally based on Darcy's DD mix. those dances, and then we've adapted them for a wider audience. We've made them slightly simpler, some of them, and we've put lots of science next to them. So the science that we've added onto them is we've had a whole section of did you knows. So there's kind of did you know information about why dance is so fantastic for people, in a way to engage them. So this program is both a physical dance program and it's a mental dance program, so people can think about some of the issues to do with well-being too. Now, dances for well-being has played a really important part in my life, and as you've heard already with dancing. But then Darcy and I started working, well, a few years ago on this, and then we were filming. Then last October, we did our first round of filming, and we started filming all these dance sessions. And then that was all fine. That was all fine. That was about October, November we were filming around the COVID time. There was a relaxation in COVID for that period. And then just after Christmas, then I was on, well, the 11th of January this year, I was then diagnosed with bowel cancer. And so being diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer, and I had no clue before then that I had any problems. And I went to the doctor, they did lots of examinations, and then they said, gosh, well, you need surgery. And of course, in January this year, we were in the middle of COVID. All the hospitals and non-essential surgeries were closed. It was an awful time. And the doctor said to me, well, a number of things, but one of them said that we need to operate because if we don't operate, you'll die because the cancer is spreading and onto the lymph nodes, and it was a bit scary. And a different doctor, he said that for what lies ahead, you need to be as fit and strong as possible. And there was a real urgency associated with being fit and strong. And they said, you're going to have this surgery, it's very major surgery. And well, it is major surgery, it's not, it was me. And he said, for this major surgery, you need to be fit and strong because your survival rates post-operation will be dependent by your levels of fitness and strength. And so physically, I thought, wow, I need to get fit and strong. I didn't know at the time, but I had 3 weeks between diagnosis and surgery. And in that 3 weeks, I tried everything I could to get us fit and strong. I came into this room every single day, and every day in this room, I would do a workout, I dance, I do some ballet, and I tried to work on my physical conditioning leading up to the surgery, getting as strong as I could. But one of the things with dance is that it does so much more than just change your body physically. It also changes your head mentally, what it did for me. So I found when, as you know, we've got a young child, when he was 7 at the time, and there was a sense that, I thought, gosh, this could be the end, it could be the end. And that was terrifying. And what tends to happen is when you get really scared, my wife was a very loving wife, and she was obviously really worried. I was really worried. Our family, all our friends were supportive, and it sends your head into a complete mess state. We try to be positive. We're going, yeah, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, it's going to be great. Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, fine. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, a little bit of surgery. Everything's done. All fine. And at the same time, we were catastrophizing, but we couldn't talk to each other about the catastrophizing because we're both trying to hold it together and not bring the other person down. And so I was really positive during the day. And for me, at 4 o'clock in the morning was the horrible time. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and then all the demons would come in at 4 a.m. and all those fears and anxieties. And Lindsay had the same situation. She was trying to be really positive and hold it all together, and she would get emotional. And the hardest thing about those times was that we couldn't collapse with each other. You know what I mean? We couldn't cry with each other because we were both trying to be strong for the other person. And that kind of leads to all this kind of tension. And what I found during that period was that I did one workout. I think, in fact, I've still got it here. It's not my ISTD, I'm sorry. It's called 567 Broadway, and it's a DVD. I watched a DVD, and it's just wonderful because it's 30 minutes of pure escapism dance, pretending to be in different musical theatre shows. With a glitter hat, everything's going on. And there's this lovely, my glitter hat's over here. So I'm always far away from my glitter hat, and I know it feels stupid, but this saved me. I mean, honestly, it saved me. That sense that I could come in here and I could have, out of that 30 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes of a release from that catastrophizing, a release from the negative thoughts, and a release from those worries. Because as you know, when you dance, it takes your mind away from all those worries and anxieties, and things become clearer and things change. So for that became my kind of daily physical hit, but also my daily mental hit as well. It wasn't always, a happy experience. Sometimes when you're holding on to emotions and the emotions are just brimming up in you and you can't let them out for whatever reason, sometimes dance gives you that space to release the emotions. You can cry, you can cheer, you can be angry, you can be furious, you can express your emotions through movements in ways that in normal life you very often can't do in the middle of a supermarket or the middle of a town centre. But when you dance, you can do those things. It becomes a life-saving thing to be able to express your emotions. So I had surgery, and they took out a big chunk of bowel, and they took out the tumour, and they harvested loads of lymph nodes. And then they said, the physio came to see me the day after, and they said, look, we need to get you out of bed because you need to start walking around. So the physio then gave me this set of exercises. And I had to walk around the ward, and I had to be able to do 2 laps of the ward before they'd release me home. And then when I got home, they said that every day you must try and walk a small distance. And then they gave me some leg exercises, which is basically sitting down, lifting up one leg, and then putting it down again, and lifting the other leg, or flex, point, put it down, up, flex, point, put it down, and you mentioned that every 2 hours. And then some breathing exercises. They said breathe in and breathe out. It's important to keep your lungs clear and to keep your lungs functioning and moving a lot. So every 2 hours I was doing breathing exercises and leg extensions and trying to walk from my bedroom into here and back again. And of course, that soon gets really boring, doesn't it, really? If you're doing the same exercise over and over and over again, there's no variety in those. So what I decided to do was to add in different dance elements to make all of those rehab exercises more interesting. So what I did for the leg extension exercises, I then put on some mathematics arms. So while I was moving my leg up and flex, point and down, I'd be doing this old-fashioned exercise that we used to do at GSA. But I'll do things like that with the leg exercise. With the breathing exercises, I started to introduce some Tai Chi into the breathing. So there'd be a movement on each inward and outward breath. Otherwise, if you're just breathing, you end up hyperventilating, just doing the same breathing over and over and over again. So I found if I did that with some Tai Chi and some breathing, I think it was Qigong I was doing. And that was really beautiful because the movements then really connected with the breath, and it enabled me to keep motivated to do those breathing exercises and the moving of the upper arms and the body. And then the third thing I did, because we were in lockdown, I wasn't allowed out downstairs in the house. I had to spend weeks and weeks and weeks up in my bedroom because the doctor said, if you get COVID now, that's it, you're over. And so I was isolating in my bedroom, which is down the corridor from here. And then I'd walk from my bedroom down the corridor, past the bathroom, into this room, walk around this room, and I'm back into the bedroom again. And it's not very far. And so I started on the very first day I came out, I could manage 5 landing laps. I could do 5 laps from the bedroom down to here and round and back up again. And then by the end, I was doing 60 laps. But again, that's very boring. So what I was doing there was using some kind of Fosse style to try and Fosse out my walk, to try to kind of make the walk a bit more interesting as I was doing it. So that was it. So that's how I used dance to help me psychologically and physically to rehab following that. Now that was right in the middle of the time when we were filming with Darcy. And so we obviously had to go on hold for a few months. And then eventually coming out of that, Darcy and I got back together again and we carried on filming. And what we've got now, we've got this program which we're launching at the end of this month as a soft launch. So if any of you are interested in trying it as a soft thing to help us see how it feels, what it's like to do that many sessions over a period of time, then let me know and we can plug you into the system if you want to give us some feedback. And this was us. Oh, put that on there. So this was Darcy and I dancing together. This was earlier in the summer, and we could only meet outside for work. So we met on the cliffs in Cromer, and we had a boogie. But the essence of Move Ashore is the idea that we use movement, and our movement is as accessible as possible to all kinds of people, to help them find movement. And so it's directed that there's choreography that the people are learning, but also within that choreography, we like to show that sometimes you get it wrong, and I always get it wrong. And Darcy is always correcting me, saying, no, not quite now, let's do it this way. And to show that really anyone can dance. So that's it. That's what we're up to. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, hold on, we can't do it. Oh, no, there's no music, so you can't hear the music. And I'm going to put that on there and say thank you very much. And now we'll open up a Q&A. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter. It was really inspiring. Thank you for sharing your personal story there. And it's so good to see you looking so much better. And there are lots of people that are very interested in trialing or helping piloting. So I don't know how can they get in contact with you?
Well, they can
through there.
Yeah, so they can write to me on, if they log into www.peterlovatt.com. Now, Move Ashore isn't on there. If so, they can do. The other way. If they go to Move Ashore, which is hyphenated, move-ashore, which is ASSURE.com. There's a little form on there which they can put their name and their email address in, and they can send that to us, and we'll send them information. But if they want to contact me through peterlovatt.com, then they can do that as well, and just say they'd be interested in trialing it, and we'd love to connect with them.
Fantastic. Jolie, I wonder whether you could put that in the chat if you're able to. Thank you. Mavis has done that as well. Brilliant. Thank you. Are there any questions from anyone before we close this session? I mean, there are lots and lots of positive things coming through here, Peter. People have loved dancing and they found this really inspiring. So I think before we go, we should have a final dance, certainly.
Oh, yes.
But are there any questions? You've got a moment there if you would like to put something to Peter before we summarise this session. Is there a Parkinson's page that we could contact?
Yes, I'll send you that link for a Parkinson's link. Yes. So there's I'm no longer working at the university running these anymore, but there are lots of Parkinson's organisations who are doing Dance for Parkinson's, and I can certainly put you in touch with the people who are working in Dance for Parkinson's.
Fantastic. Anyone else want to put something to Peter? There are lots of positive comments coming through, really inspiring. Be interested in, oh, it's coming in fast and furious now. Be interested in understanding a bit more about how dance affects our thinking or improves the symptoms of Parkinson's. Yeah, maybe that's something perhaps we can. Yeah,
there are lots of books on the whole thing with thinking. It's amazing that different types of movement changes the way that we think and solve problems, which is extraordinary. And we've written some academic papers on that. And I talk a little bit about that also in both of my books. So for both the books, cover a little bit about how movement changes the way that we think and solve problems, and gives an illustration of how that was worked in with people with Parkinson's.
Fantastic. Somebody said, do you have a summary of the workshop, sort of notes? We've recorded this session, so you can go back and have a look at it in our members area if you want to note down any of the links. I don't know whether there's anything else you can pinpoint, Peter.
No, I don't have a summary per se, because I try to make a different one each time, and I haven't got a written summary. Part of the reason why I don't use many written words is that I suffer from very severe dyslexia, or I did as a kid, and so I find writing quite difficult. I find speaking much more easy, and so that's why I tend not to transcribe my lectures. So I don't write them. Some lecturers write the whole lecture out and then speak over it, and I don't do that, I'm afraid.
Somebody asked about your book again, but I'll just show your book.
Thank you.
You can see that is Dance Cure. That's a really great read. And we also had this mentioned, because you were in our dance magazine, weren't you? And so we've got this book in our dance magazine and links to this. So if you want to have a little look at that, that's great. Yeah, somebody said about dance hubs would be good for recreational dance teachers to access councils and schools, having issues with schools prioritising music but not dance. They agree in that aspect.
Well, it'd be lovely to connect. I mean, perhaps when we start up the Dance Hub, we could work with dance teachers, and if any of you are interested in being involved, not just in Norfolk, but in other councils as well, to really trying to get a movement together to increase the value of dance provision for in our schools. So that'd be really great.
Fantastic. Great. And so lots of links there. And somebody said, I live in Canada, and all of what you said applies worldwide. Love the Dance Hub. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Peter. I wonder whether we might perhaps close with doing a final rendition of our dance. How about that? If everybody in this chat, in this webinar is dancing, we're all just about to go into further meetings. Let's move that body before we go. How about that?
Wonderful. Okay, here we go. So again, I apologise about having no music. I tried, and unless it goes right, let me see whether that's just, let me see whether, hold on, I'm going to the end of this slide now, I'm scrolling, and I'm just going to see whether you could hear some music. Oh, hold on. Can you hear that?
No, we can't.
Oh.
But in our minds, we do.
Okay, I can hear it. So I'm going to hum along to it, if you don't mind. Yeah, it's not the right key. This is Stevie Wonder singing. Here we go. Are you ready? Here we go. 5, 6, 7. Here we go, and boom. Now groove, and just do something, just feel the music in your head, oh, and just feel your body. 5, 6, 7, and boom. 4, 5, 6, 7, and boom. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, up, down, up, 1, up, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and boom. Now groove again and do something different with your body. Ooh. Just feel the groove running through your body. Ooh. And just do something that goes with that groove that you're feeling.
That's brilliant, Peter. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Fantastic session. And yeah, we've loved having you. And so from all of our members and all of the people in this webinar, thank you so much for your inspiring session and for really giving us something to think about today, Peter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Bye-bye.